everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalia Leigh. I am an indie author and freelance editor, and today we're doing part 2 of my general Q&A. I put out a call for questions on both Instagram and YouTube, and I received so many amazing questions that I wanted to make sure that I took the time to answer all of them. That just means that I need to break the video down into 2 parts. So part 1, which you can find here, it will be linked down below, is the YouTube questions. So if you sent your questions in via YouTube, that's where you're gonna find them, is part 1. Today, for part 2, we're doing the Instagram related questions. Let's just go ahead and sip some tea and get into part 2 of the Q&A. Here we go. We're starting with Bella the Book Nerd, and Bella asks, do you tend to overwrite on your first draft or underwrite? It depends on the project. When I was writing Song of the Dryad, I was absolutely an overwriter. I ended up cutting out like 15,000 words, I think. So I was definitely a bit of an overwriter for Song of the Dryad, but in terms of Pistol Daisy, I think if anything, I've been an underwriter. And the reason for that is I believe that I have honed my skills even more than when I was writing Song of the Dryad. And in doing so, I have really been able to cut back on the useless junk that I had in the book. So that's anything from useless scenes to chapters that don't take us anywhere, even all the way down to like filler words and useless words. And if you are somebody who wants to learn which words that you should be looking out for and cutting out of your novel, I have a video about 40 words to cut out of your novel. It will be linked down below. Incredibly helpful. It can really clean up your work. Okay, next question from Charlie P. Cummings. What is the biggest difference or change about your writing routine from Highborn to Whiskey City? Oh my gosh, such a change. So when I was writing Highborn, this is such a fun question, Charlie, thank you. When I was writing Highborn, I had never written a book before. You know, let's just go back to the very first draft of Highborn when I was working on it. I had never written a book before. It was my freshman year of college and I was still living at home, going to community college. I had a job, a part-time job, so I was home a lot. But I didn't really have a writing routine, not that I can remember. I was just kind of a college kid going to, you know, community college, had a lot of time on my hands, and I would just work on my book when I could or when I felt inspired. Versus today, I very much approach writing from a place of kind of a career mindset. I love writing now more than ever before, and I think that's because I believe in myself now, and I know that the stories I write can have meaning, and I can share that with other people. I can share that with readers who I know are going to enjoy it. So I really still have like the spark and the magic for writing in that way. But when it comes to a routine, I treat it much more like a job now. When I get up in the mornings, early morning, you know, I have my cup of coffee, I wake up a little bit, and then I'm typically sitting down to work on Pistol Daisy or Whiskey City or whatever the book is that I'm working on, because I know that in the mornings I have the most creative energy, and I need to kind of like harness that and utilize it right away when I wake up. So very different writing routines, very different mindsets. I'd say that has been the biggest shift between my first book to Whiskey City, which is going to be my 5th published book. A huge shift in mindset, but that was a fantastic question. Thank you, Charlie. Moving on. Author Callie Pascal asks, favorite subgenre of fantasy? Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know what my favorite subgenre of fantasy is. Let's go ahead and Google fantasy subgenres and see if I can get a list and then like choose from that. Let's see. There are so many. Maybe historical fantasy. So if you can picture like a Skyrim world where it's like, you know, knights in shining armor and swords and magic and sorcery, I would say that's probably my favorite. I'm not big into urban fantasy really. I'm not really into, what are some of the other ones on here? Magical realism. I like magical realism, but I'd have to say that, yeah, historical fantasy is probably my favorite. And that's kind of funny because I've written fantasy up until this point, and now with Pistol Daisy, I'm writing historical fiction. So that kind of goes to show that even though Pistol Daisy isn't fantasy, you know, there's no magic. It's not like she's slinging spells from her horseback, but it still combines the 2 things that I love most, you know, historical fiction and fantasy. So thank you for that question, Callie. Kamini's World asks, what first got you into writing and editing, and did you always know you wanted to do this? So I have always known I've wanted to be a writer. I have loved writing since I was a kid, and don't take that to mean that you have to love writing since you were, a juvenile in order to be an author. That is not the case at all. It just is the case. It was the case for me. I've always loved writing, but I didn't take writing seriously until I was in college. I mean, my sophomore year of college, I was studying equine science because I still didn't think that writing was a career path that was realistic, that I could go down. And it took a lot of soul searching to be able to find the confidence in order to kind of go after those dreams. And I can make an entire video on this, and I want to actually coming up here, the importance of believing in yourself and having confidence in yourself. It is so important. I always knew I wanted to be a writer. It took me, until I was almost halfway through college in order to take that more seriously. In terms of editing, I did not ever think about being an editor until I was in this world. Here on YouTube, interacting with everybody, reading stories, writing all of my own stories. And then I started realizing, I catch errors in every single book I read. It is my passion to, drive down the road and correct street signs and correct, business magnets on cars. I love it. I love it so much. And finally I was I'm going to step outside my comfort zone and I'm going to take some classes and see kind of what comes of this. It felt like a door opened up, and I was I had this realization of I'm passionate about editing. I'm good at it. I do have an inherent ability to edit. It just comes naturally to me. And this is kind of a funny little thing about me, but I love spelling. I've always loved spelling, and for many, many years, I don't even know how many, I've been doing this so long, I've had this this habit, it's almost an obsessive habit, but it doesn't affect my life in a negative way. It's just me. I like to take words and sentences and phrases, and I kind of almost obsessively spell them forward and back and forward and back. You would be shocked at how successfully I can spell words backward. So no, I didn't think that editing was going to be a career path for me ever. But now that I am editing, I almost am wondering, how did I not know sooner? If I had known sooner, maybe I could have studied this in college. Maybe I could have my Publishing Institute certificate or something. I don't know. I am so happy to have discovered editing. I'm so happy to be a member of the EFA and to be constantly taking classes. I actually have a class tonight. Okay, the next question comes in from, I'm going to struggle with this name, Medicen Choi, maybe? Sorry if I didn't say that right. So he wants to know challenges of writing in first person or writing a novel with a super short timeline. So I can't really speak on writing a super short timeline. There are books that have been, oh gosh, Tifa. Tifa, can you stop? So I personally have never written a book with a super short timeline, but I know it can be done successfully. Tifa, can you please keep it down? He does that every time he's done eating. Every single time. Okay. Okay, so super short timeline. This is the third time I'm trying to say this. I've never written a book with a super short timeline, but I know it can be well done. But challenges of writing in first person, I love writing in first person. I have rediscovered my love for it through writing Pistol Daisy, and I do not want to go back to third person. Although if I write that song, the DRYAD sequel, I'll need to go back to third person. But I think for many writers, especially new writers or people who are experimenting with first person for the first time, it can be very easy to head hop and to accidentally slip out of a first person point of view. Because unless your main character, whose POV you're in, is a mind reader, they should not know what other characters are thinking. Of course, we can look at other people around us and gather information and context based on their body language, how they're acting, what they're saying. But I find many writers who are experimenting with first person, I find many of them head hop and they jump into multiple different perspectives, accidentally slip into other people's POVs because it can be difficult to kind of reel it in and to really stay focused with just the first person point of view. So I would say that that's probably the biggest struggle that I've seen writers have with first person, is just constant head hopping. And of course you can practice this and learn how to not do it, but many writers struggle with head hopping for sure. Okay, Bethany J. Votow, I hope I said that right, asks thoughts on novellas. I would kind of consider Pistol Daisy a novella, I guess, because it's short. It's like 37,000 words right now, so I'm gonna say love novellas. But also, I don't know, there's something about the word novella that I don't really like because it almost makes me feel like, oh, this is not a complete story, which isn't the case. Like Pistol Daisy is super short, but it's a complete story. It just moves quickly, it's short, so you can get to the next book very quickly. It's kind of like my indie publishing method. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on novellas? Like when you hear the word novella, do you think, oh, that's kind of like a throwaway story, that's like an add-on to a book series? Like what do you think when you hear the word novella? Because personally, I don't like that term because it does make me think of something that's not complete, that doesn't tell an entire story. So I don't want to call Pistol Daisy that, but maybe other people would call it that. So let us know down below what your thoughts are. Let's see, question from Jackson's Girl Works. Other than planning, what else can you do with Scrivener? I have written multiple books in Scrivener. So I don't write Pistol Daisy in Scrivener because again, the Pistol Daisy books are very short and concise. But with Song of the Dryad, for example, Scrivener saved my life because not only was I able to outline with like the corkboard method on Scrivener, but I could break the story down into every single chapter and then further break those chapters down into every single scene. And then I had little like note cards on the corkboard feature of Scrivener that had a summary of every single scene and like why that was in the book. So for a very long project like Song of the Dryad, which is over 100,000 words, I really needed that Scrivener document in order to quickly navigate to the part of the book that I needed to work on, because it would have taken forever to scroll through that. Like if it was on a Word document, to scroll through it and find what I needed would have taken forever. With Pistol Daisy, I could scroll through that thing incredibly quick because it's short. But if you're writing a very long novel and you need to really keep track of what's happening in every scene and every chapter, I think Scrivener is the perfect way to do that, absolutely. Coley Blue 17 asks, what's the best way to start an Authortube if you have not yet published your first book? So there are many people here on Authortube who have not published a book yet. There are a ton of people. So you can definitely look at their channels and see what type of content they're sharing. I think a big thing here on Authortube is just sharing your journey. So if you are outlining your book, if you are participating in Camp NaNoWriMo, like coming up in April, if you are editing your book, did I already say that? I don't know because Tifa's screaming. Can you give your kitty a big hug for me? Tifa's right here, so we're gonna hug him. That didn't work very well. I tried to give him a hug. Okay, we're gonna go back to that other question. Best way to start an Authortube. Yeah, so a bunch of people here on Authortube have never written a book. So you could look at what they're doing. You know, you could do vlogs during Camp NaNoWriMo. You could do NaNoWriMo vlogs. You could do outlining vlogs, you know, while you're editing, while you're writing. Like you can always do personal, like author journey content. I think that's mostly kind of what Authortube is right now. I know that I am kind of starting to get back into the tips videos and trying to help teach again, but you don't have to do tips videos to be part of Authortube. And again, I do have a video all about Authortube, like how to get started. This is a little bit older and I do want to update it, but you can find that video linked down below if you are interested in starting an Authortube channel. And I think this is the perfect time because Camp NaNoWriMo is coming up and I love watching Camp NaNoWriMo vlogs. And that's how I find a lot of like new people to follow. So next question is from Jessica Abbott, 30, and she asks, how do you and your husband work as a team when it comes to you and writing? So Greg and I work incredibly well together. It blows my mind how much time we can spend with one another without getting irritated at the other person at all. We work from home most of the time, and if we're not working from home, we're doing pet sitting, which unless we're incredibly busy, we do pet sitting together. It just helps when you're taking care of a bunch of dogs and you can have two people preparing the bowls and two people walking, you know, the dogs and stuff like that. So Greg and I are together almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we have never had a problem with getting frustrated at one another or annoyed. So we work very well together. In terms of me like writing, if you just want to know about that type of teamwork, he's been helping me as like a beta reader and an alpha reader, and his feedback is so helpful. Yesterday I worked on Pistol Daisy for about 3 hours yesterday morning, and I was consistently kind of calling Greg into the office and asking him, what do you think about this? What do you think about this character? You know, kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. And by having somebody who understands your story, like Greg understands mine, because he's read it probably 5 times, I'm really able to kind of dig deeper into that content, and he's able to provide me feedback that other people aren't able to do because other people don't know the story as well as he does. They don't know my vision for where the story is going. So that's how he's been helping me in terms of my writing. He really is just like a fantastic sounding board. He's a support system. I love him so much. And then in addition, he's also editing all of my YouTube videos for me now. And he's also doing all of my thumbnails. He is building 2 brand new websites. Just wait until you see the new Enchanted Ink Publishing website. It is absolutely gorgeous, highly professional, so beautiful, and I cannot wait to share it with you guys. But he is essentially right now doing all of the like background work because I am focusing so much energy into editing for clients. Editing is my full-time job now, and without Greg, I would not be able to get all these videos up. So applause for Greg. Thank you. I love you so much. Okay, moving on to the next question. All right, Marlo York. Hi, Marlo. Marlo asks, what is your favorite part of your weekly routine? It's a hard question to answer because I am so content and I am so happy with my life right now. And that is something that I think we don't hear very often because we're so used to people having these jobs that they hate and, you know, having to do all these things that they really don't enjoy. But I am very fortunate to have a job or jobs that bring me so much joy. I'm editing, I'm doing YouTube, I'm writing my own books, and I feel so good about all that. But I do think that YouTube is still one of my top passions. Sitting down and filming videos like this, you know, editing videos, seeing them go live, interacting in the comments, that brings me so much joy. So I'd say in terms of what's my favorite part of my weekly routine, I would say sitting down and filming YouTube videos and then editing them and watching them go live because I love interacting with you guys. I love being here on YouTube, and it's a nice way to kind of disconnect from what I'm working on for my clients and for myself. A nice way to just kind of relax and connect, and I really love that. So filming and YouTube stuff is probably my favorite part right now of my weekly routine. This is another great question. It comes in from author Alyssa Green, and Alyssa asks, were you as terrified as me when you published your first book? So I have to say, I wasn't really scared or terrified at all when it came to publishing my first book. When I published Highborn, I had no internet presence. No one was going to read the book, and it really was just exciting because it was the first book I wrote. I formatted it myself. It was terrible when I first formatted it. I have learned a lot since then. You know, I did my own cover, and I wasn't scared at all. I was just excited to see it and to hold it and to be able to tell people, look, like this is the book that I wrote. So there wasn't any fear going into that. And I can also say that, you know, even with like Song of the Dryad, I had a larger audience and I knew people were going to read it, but I wasn't afraid. I think it makes sense to be afraid. I can understand why you might be, you know, maybe you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. Maybe you know, are afraid of people giving you negative reviews, or you're afraid of people not reading it, or whatever it is. I can understand the fear, but I also feel like fear, it can teach us, but don't let it hold you back. Like, don't think, okay, I'm afraid to publish this book, so I'm going to push the release date back 3 months, and maybe I'll be more confident then. I think fear means that we are stepping outside of our comfort zone, and it can be an avenue for growth, so I think that's a wonderful thing. But in terms of my books, I've never really been terrified or afraid to release them. I know that, you know, deep in my heart that I have done the best I can, and I also know that some people will like it and some people won't. And I think if you can accept that and just know that you did the best you can, and once you let it go and it's out there, it's no longer, like, it's not you. When people are judging that work, don't think that they're judging you, they're judging what's on the page. In most cases, I mean, granted, for people here on YouTube that put themselves out there, or even authors that put themselves out there, I know that there can be some harsh reviews that are mostly attacking the person, but that's for a totally different video topic. But don't be afraid, Alyssa. If anything, be excited. Be incredibly excited, be proud of yourself, and really enjoy the feelings of, you know, being this close to release and being so close to sharing your story with the world, because those positive feelings are so much healthier for you than the negative, fearful ones. Jody Wrights asks, are you finding it hard finding healthy foods in the markets during this time? A little bit. Last time I went to the store, I couldn't get any of the bagged vegetables I usually get. However, most of the fresh vegetables were still available, so I got some of those. I grabbed a bunch of those. You know, that was the one thing that kind of, amidst all of this, that was the one thing that kind of made me anxious and bothered me, was this feeling of like, oh my God, society is collapsing. I can no longer buy the potatoes I want or whatever. But I was able to get the food that will keep me healthy, that will keep Greg healthy. We were able to get cat food and just, you know, hang out, eat well, be calm. And I haven't really struggled with it. But I will tell you something. My grocery store was completely out of my favorite vegan mac and cheese. It's like a boxed mac and cheese and it's so good. And that was a very sad thing when my vegan mac was sold out. Let's see. Louis Pontifex asks, who is your favorite villain and would you play in a movie? Who is my favorite villain? I really don't know. That is such a hard question. That feels similar to asking like, what is your favorite book? And I don't have an answer for it because I love so many different books and so many different villains and so many different characters for everything that they are, like for different reasons. So unfortunately, I don't think I can answer who is my favorite villain because I love villains. I find them fascinating, especially when they're well written. But then the next question, would you play in a movie? Yes, that would be so much fun. I would definitely love to play in a movie and have that life experience. When I was a kid, I was like hell-bent on being a famous actress. And then my sister and I, story time, we went to this like casting call in Colorado for like kids to be on Disney Channel or something. And the woman who was like directing it was so mean and intimidating and scary that we totally walked out, like along with a bunch of other people. And I think after that, I was like, no way. If people in the movie industry are this mean to children and this intimidating to children, there is no way I want to be involved in it. But I've gotten quite comfortable on camera, so it would be fun to act in a movie. That would be a lot of fun if the opportunity ever came my way. 2 more questions. Joshua Reed Wrights asks, how is Pistol Daisy coming amid the coronavirus? So it's coming along just fine. I worked on it for 3 hours yesterday. I have not yet worked on it today just because I have a couple videos to film and a bunch of editing to do. So it's kind of on and off. I don't work on it every single day. Last week, I will say that last Thursday and Friday especially, I was really in a state of anxiety and I couldn't focus on what I needed to do because I was just like obsessively reading the news and being scared, and that is not a healthy way to approach this. The end of last week was a little bit tough in terms of the work that I needed to get done, but I'm feeling much better this week and very positive, and things are coming along well. So I'm just being super calm, I'm hanging out with the cats, I'm drinking tea, and I'm just continuing my life as normal. But again, I am very grateful that, you know, for the fact that I do work at home, so my routine hasn't been as disturbed as I know some other people's has been. But yeah, I'm just keeping calm and cool amidst the coronavirus panic. Okay, last question. Last question comes in from Official Marieki, and it is how to start your story and keep it interesting to read. That needs an entire video about it, which is essentially how do you write a compelling story? And it took me many years to learn this, and I think it's something that all of us are constantly trying to learn and constantly trying to get better at. Some people probably have more of a knack for it than others. I know that I have had to work very hard to learn tension, to learn stakes, to learn pacing. It didn't really come naturally to me. What came naturally to me was the act of putting words together and putting sentences together in an appealing way, but that's very different. So I've said this multiple times, the act of writing or the craft of writing is very different from the craft of storytelling. Some of us may lean, you know, more into one camp than the other. I know that I am naturally better at writing than I am at storytelling, so I've had to work very hard to learn how to tell a compelling story, and I am still learning all the time. I'm taking editing classes, I'm editing my books, other people's books, constantly expanding my mind and expanding my skills, and I think that's what all of us have to do. But I can make an entire video on this subject. So that is it for today. Those were all of my Instagram questions. I answered almost every single question, and the ones that I didn't answer, I wrote down in my bullet journal to do an entire video topic on. So thank you so much to everybody who sent in questions. I appreciate each and every one of you. I am very positive about what's going to be happening in the next coming months. I'm excited about Pistol Daisy. I'm excited about working with all of these amazing clients. I am literally booked up almost through June. So if you are interested in working with me as your editor, either for content edits or copy edits or proofreading, make sure that you're contacting me. You can visit me at enchantedinkpublishing.com or click the link that pops up here at the end of the video to visit Enchanted Ink Publishing, and hopefully we can get you on my calendar and work together to bring your story to life. So thank you guys so much for everything. I appreciate you. Stay positive, stay happy and healthy. Keep on writing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!